welcome everyone to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Congenital Heart Surgery Database monthly webinar. Today is Tuesday, December the 17th. So again, welcome everyone and thank you for joining. For the agenda today, I just have our brief STS update, and then I'll turn things over to Chastity and Leslie. They have some STS data manager education on VADs. And then we will turn things over to you all for our Q&A. Just a friendly reminder to please put your questions for the Q&A using the Q&A function, not the chat. And also we do have that raised hand function enabled, so you can raise your hand and ask your question if you would rather go about it that way. On the call with me today, let's see, from STS, we've got myself, we've got Banu, Emily, Nancy, Paul, and then from our Chastity and Leslie, of course, and then from our surgeon leadership, we have Dr. Meyer and Dr. Subramanian. So thank you for joining. And I think I missed you too, Melinda. So Melinda Offer is also on for the STS side of things as well. All right. STS updates, not much new from our last call. The December training manual is posted and that's available out on the website. Our fall 24 harvest update, those analysis reports were released on Monday, December the 9th. And that report does include surgery dates of July 1, 2020 through 6/30/2024. The 2025 harvest schedule has been posted. The spring 25 harvest close date is scheduled for March 21st, and our fall 25 harvest schedule close date is September the 26th. Public reporting was also updated recently. The website was updated November the 11th, using those results from the spring 24 harvest. And I'm sure you all have seen by now, but also on Monday, December the 9th, we released our CHSD Executive Dashboard. So that is now available. After Chastity and Leslie have completed their update, their VAD education, I will come back and do a walkthrough of the community page. I want to show you some features of the executive dashboard and the community page. But just really quickly, if you haven't had a chance to go out and see the CHSD executive dashboard, just really quickly, the executive dashboard contains, we have a widget for the risk adjusted operative mortality table 16. This is reported, as you will notice, it mimics the table 16 that's in your report. It's the reported by stat category for each age group. Then we also have the longitudinal risk adjusted operative mortality. This provides trending of risk adjusted operative mortality of the last 4 harvests by stat category and age group. We have our postoperative length of stay by stat category, provides participant versus STS benchmark for postop length of stay by stat category using the previous harvest data. We have a near real-time update of the number of procedures submitted to the STS Congenital Heart Surgery Database reported by year. And then we also have our participant performance on median inclusion eligibility for analysis. And we utilize the green, yellow, and red status to provide you with more of a streamlined approach to ensuring that your data will be included in the upcoming harvest analysis. And there's also drill down capability within that widget. So again, I will go through a walkthrough of that community page and that dashboard after we've gotten through our VAD education. Speaking of our VAD education, I'm going to turn things over to Chastity and Leslie so they can kick off their presentation.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks everyone for joining today. This is Leslie from University of Michigan. So today we're going to talk about some changes starting January 1st to op types, procedures done with op types of VAD operation done with or without CPB. In detail, we'll go through case inclusion requirements and also some more well-defined characteristics of these operations. So when we should be using op type VADs, op type 6 or 7. We're also going to talk about an update to how to code percutaneous VAD implants. And then Chas is going to go through some case scenarios. Next slide. Okay, so the current guidance in 623 is to include all cases done by a surgeon who is on your Schedule A. However, this hasn't always been documented or kind of officially out there up until 623. So what we noticed was there is some variance in which procedures sites were submitting. So we are going to expand on this now moving forward, beginning January 1st. Next slide, Leanne. Beginning January 1st, 2025, the STS CHSD will require all participants to submit all op-type VAD procedures to the data warehouse. And this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's to encourage complete data capture for each event. So some of the things that we had noticed was that one might have submitted a case with op-type VAD, but maybe not every single field for the event. And so we want to make sure that those are getting completely captured. Number two, next slide. We want to ensure sites are capturing VAD cases consistently at their own institution and across the board. And this is because we don't want to allow for people to submit one VAD case, but not another. We just want to have all of them submitted consistently and completely. And then number three, this will allow future modeling to incorporate VAD events or fields and give us a better idea of what is happening to our patients over the long haul. So to that end, next slide. We're going to better define which cases should be considered op-type VAD. Again, it's op-type 6 and 7, VAD operations done with or without CPD. Next slide. So we're going to go through what the instructions will look like, just sort of an overview, and then we'll kind of go into each bullet point. And then a little bit later, Chas will follow up with some case scenarios. So the new updated training manual will include these coding notes to code a multi-component procedure as an op-type VAD if and only if, number one, all components of the procedure were done to facilitate placing the patient on VAD support. And number two, durable support cannulas were used. And number three, the decision to place those was made prior to the patient entering the OR. And number four, at least one of the following are true. So either your patient has one of the heart failure diagnoses as primary diagnosis, or they are currently actively listed for a heart transplant, or the decision has already been made to list the patient for a heart transplant after a defined postoperative period. So this is what's going to be in the training manual, but it's not there yet. So if you want to take a quick screenshot, you can do that right now. Before we move on, I'm going to kind of go into more details about each of these bullet points. Okay, next slide, Leanne. So code a multi-component procedure. Why multi-component? So we are specifically looking at cases where other things were done aside from just putting in a VAD. So if you just go to the OR, put in a VAD, leave the OR, nothing else is done, it is op-type VAD. If you have other things done, this is where we really want to kind of define what those other things are and why they're done in order to use op-type VAD. So first thing, this hasn't changed, we've said this all along, all components of the procedure were done to facilitate that VAD working. Next slide. And durable support cannulas were used. So not temporary. At my institution, this is usually going to be a Berlin cannula. There could be other ones I'm not as familiar with, but durable support cannulas, not temporary cannulas. And that decision needs to have been made and hopefully documented prior to entering the operating room. So this is not, we go to the OR, we're trying to repair this patient's heart, but we can't, and we decide to go on a VAD. This is, we are going on a VAD, but we might, we need to fix some other part of the heart or great vessels in order to get that VAD to work properly. And the next slide. And of course, at least one of the following are true. So your primary diagnosis is cardiomyopathy, dilated restrictive or hypertrophic, cardiomyopathy, end-stage congenital heart disease, or cardiorespiratory failure not secondary to known structural heart disease. If you don't have one of those diagnoses as your primary diagnosis, then your patient must be currently listed for a heart transplant, or a decision has already been made that we are going to do this operation, put the patient on a VAD, and then with a defined, documented postoperative period, after that period, list for heart transplant. This also applies to when the patient is already on a VAD. So if you're already on a VAD and you do another procedure to help the VAD and you have durable support cannulas, then these same rules will apply for VAD procedures. And I believe Chastity has an example of that as well later on. Okay, so this is when we're going to use op type 6 and 7 moving forward. Again, this is January 1st cases forward. We don't need you to go back and do anything different to the prior cases. And now we're going to talk about percutaneous VADs. Next slide. Oops, next slide again, sorry. So this would be if an interventional cardiologist performs a procedure on, or removes a temporary heart assist device, and the surgeon only provides access. If a surgeon places the device themselves, then that does not apply. This is when the interventional cardiologist does it and the surgeon provides access. Of course, if the surgeon isn't there at all, it doesn't go into STS. So if this is the case, interventional cardiologist places it, surgeon provides access, we're going to use op type other. Your primary procedure, next slide, sorry. Your primary procedure will be the type of access provided. So it'll be one of those two codes. And then your secondary procedure or procedures will be one of the heart temporary assist device codes, whether you're implanting, explanting, or doing a procedure on the device itself. And this falls in line with the hybrid style coding that we implemented this past year. As a reminder, you're still going to open the VAD section and you'll complete any implant or explant details if applicable to the case. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jess.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, so let's start in with a few case scenarios. So we're not going to do any audience polling. We're going to give you a few seconds to come up with what you think your answer would be based on current rules as well as what Leslie just went through. So question 1, a patient with myocarditis undergoes implantation of a Berlin heart device. Should this be entered into the CHSD? And your options are yes, all operations should be entered into the database, or no, VAD operations are optional to enter. I'll take a few seconds and think about what your answer would be. Okay, here's the answer.
Sorry about that, Jess.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'll wait.
So the correct answer is yes, that all operations should be entered into the database. And this comes directly from the training manual under general information, which Leslie also had the slide earlier in her presentation. But again, all cases performed by a congenital cardiothoracic surgeon included on a participant's Schedule A and per your STS contract are to be included into the CHSD. So this would include your VAD operations. Next slide. Question 2. A patient with myocarditis undergoes implantation of a Berlin heart device. What is the correct operation type? Is it CPB non-cardiovascular, a VAD operation done with CPB, a VAD operation done without CPB, or more information is needed? Take a few seconds. Leanne's going to let you count this time.
Yeah, I'm counting. All right. You ready?
Yep. Okay, so here more information is needed. You don't have the op note in front of you that says how they implanted the VAD, and we don't want to make assumptions. So while it is going to be one of the op type VADs, we just don't know if CPB was or was not utilized. And so obviously this should be documented in your op note, and otherwise you may need to talk with your surgeon if you can't tell from the documentation in your op note. Next slide. Question 3. Patient with myocarditis undergoes implantation of a Berlin heart device for durable long-term support as a bridge to transplant. What is the correct primary procedure? Is it right, left heart temporary assist device implant or VAD implant?
Just let me know when, Jess.
I think that's probably good. Okay, so the correct answer is VAD implant. And this is because if you go to the training manual, you'll see VAD implant is insertion of a VAD, ventricular assist device, with the intent of providing prolonged durable support. And so this may include implants that are a bridge to transplant or even destination therapy as written in the training manual. And so we don't know that someone may get a heart tomorrow. But the plan was, for this case, was to provide that prolonged durable support until the patient did receive their transplant. Whereas if you look at 3820, the right left heart temporary assist device implant, it's insertion of a left or right temp assist device without the intent of providing prolonged durable support. Now, I know sometimes we write these scenarios very beautifully with all of the information needed, and one op note or a transplant consult or things like that may not provide all the detail you need. And this is where you're going to need to really confirm with your surgeon and or your entire team of what the intent is when they put in an assist device. Next slide. Patient with myocarditis undergoes implant of a temporary ventricular assist device using Berlin or durable cannulas and CPB support. What is the correct primary procedure? Is it right-left temp assist device implant, right-left heart temp assist device procedure, or a VAD implant?
All right.
And so the correct answer is VAD implant. And next slide should have. Yep. Okay. So if you look under the definition for the right left heart temp assist device, or the coding notes, I should say, if durable cannulas are used, so even though this was a temporary device, if durable cannulas are used, you're going to actually code procedure 2380 VAD implant, regardless of the device it is connected to. So for example, utilizing Berlin heart cannulas with a CenterMag device, you would code VAD implant. And again, it says it even in the training manual. If it is not clear in your medical record, or your surgeons don't always document what type of cannulas they're using, you want to confirm with your surgeon, and it's a good time to maybe ask them to adjust how they're documenting so that you can get all the information from your op note and not need to come to them every time you're trying to enter a VAD operation. Next slide. Question 5. Patient undergoes a Glenn with atrial septectomy and experiences a cardiac arrest in the ICU requiring ECMO cannulation. The patient is subsequently listed for transplant and transitioned to durable VAD support. During the procedure, CPB is utilized and the previously created ASD is closed to facilitate the VAD. What is the op type for the transition to VAD support? Is it CPB cardiovascular or VAD operation done with CPB? The correct answer is VAD operation done with CPB. And now let's go through the information on the next slide that Leslie went through, talking about how we can code multi-component procedures as op-type VAD and see here what is true. So next slide. So if we look, all components of the procedure were undertaken solely to facilitate placing the patient on VAD support. Now, again, I wrote a really nice scenario where I said the septectomy had to be closed to facilitate the VAD. If you're questioning it, talk to your surgeons. Durable cannulas are placed during the procedure, which again was in the scenario I provided. The decision to place the VAD support was made prior to the patient entering the OR, which is also correct. And then, do they have at least one of the following that are true? So this patient has end-stage congenital heart disease because they had congenital heart disease, and now we cannot do any more, they're not amenable to any more surgical repair, and they have been listed for heart transplant. And so even though in this case, B should be checked, the patient is currently actively listed for heart transplant as well. This is written as a really nice scenario. And I'll tell you, once we came up, wordsmith this rule and came up with it, I had a case in my own center, and it was really nice to just go through this and check the boxes, and it made it much more comfortable to code something as op-type VAD. Next. So again, if you're in doubt, discuss the surgical plan or details with your surgeon. Next slide. Question number 6. Patient undergoes repair for DORV and cannot separate from bypass in the OR. They're transitioned from CPB to a temporary CenterMag device and recover in the ICU. The heart failure team is following the patient and deems them a heart transplant candidate if recovery does not occur. What is the operation type for the DORV repair? CPB cardiovascular or VAD operation done with CPB? Next slide. So the correct operation or correct op type is CPB cardiovascular. And this just goes back to the original rules that it's a cardiovascular procedure and CPB was used and you've done a major structural repair. So nothing has changed with our previous rules for determining if CPB support was used. Next slide. If we also go through our checklist here, you'll see were components of the procedure, so the DORV repair, undertaken to facilitate placing the patient on a VAD? No. We don't know anything about what support cannulas were utilized. The decision to place the VAD support was made prior to patient entering OR? No. And was the primary diagnosis of the operation one of the heart failure or end-stage congenital heart disease codes, cardiomyopathy codes? No. They're not currently listed for transplant, and there was no previous decision that they would be listed for transplant after a defined postoperative period. So even going through this checklist, you see that the patient does not meet any of the criteria. Next. This should be question 7. Patient with a single ventricle anatomy and severe systemic AV valve regurgitation is deemed not to be a surgical candidate. The patient requires VAD support while the transplant evaluation is completed. The surgeon performs an aortopulmonary amalgamation or DKS to facilitate placement on the Berlin heart device and utilized durable cannulas. What is the operation type for the hybrid stage 1 procedure? Is it no CPB cardiovascular or VAD operation done with CPB? So yes, the correct answer is VAD operation done with CPB. However, when I said utilize durable cannulas, I should have also said utilized CPB as well. So my error, but we do know it is not no CPB cardiovascular. So by default. Next slide, as we go through then our checklist, all components of the procedure were undertaken solely to facilitate placing the patient on the VAD. Yes. So even though it seems strange that you've done a DKS, right, a stage 1 palliation on the patient, this is not based on what procedure is performed, but more where this patient was going, what the thoughts were about their heart or keeping their existing heart. Were durable support cannulas utilized? Yes. The decision to place the patient on the VAD was made prior to the patient entering the OR? Yes. And then at least one of the following are true. So this patient has end-stage congenital heart disease, which I laid out in the scenario. And then they made a decision to list the patient for transplant after a defined postoperative period. And in this case, this patient was actively undergoing transplant. They just weren't actively listed yet, but would be once the evaluation was complete. Next slide. Patient status postpone TAM procedure continues to have persistent heart failure requiring VAD placement and is listed for transplant. The patient undergoes CentroMag device placement with Berlin cannulas. 10 days later, the patient requires a pump exchange without CPB due to clots and placement of a new pacemaker lead. What is the op type for this pump exchange and pacemaker procedure? Is it no CPB cardiovascular or a VAD operation done with CPB? So it's changed on this one. I apologize. We'll get that updated before we post it on the website. Next slide. Let's talk about this a little bit. So not only are we looking at this from the perspective of the time of implant to durable VAD support, but now you have a patient who is already on durable VAD support, and they had to have a procedure then while on VAD support. So all components of the procedure were undertaken to solely facilitate placing the patient on the VAD. We know that they were already on the VAD, but the procedures were done to facilitate the VAD support. Durable cannulas are placed. This patient already had existing durable cannulas in place from their implant that occurred 10 days earlier. The decision to place the VAD support was made prior to the patient entering the OR. This patient obviously is already on durable VAD support. And then at least one of the following is true, and this patient is currently actively listed for heart transplant. So meets all the criteria. Next slide. Patient with heart failure goes to the cath lab, and the surgeon performs a right axillary cut down to facilitate the interventionalist placement of an Impella device. What is the operation type? Is the op type other or a VAD operation done without CPB? Next. So the answer is the op type is other. So the surgeon did not implant or insert the Impella device. It was done by the interventionalist, but the surgeon did provide access for this procedure. So this is going to follow, like Leslie said, what our hybrid procedures do when the surgeon only provides access, and the op type then would be other. Next. A patient with heart failure goes to the cath lab and the surgeon performs a right axillary cut down to facilitate the interventionalist placement of the Impella device. What is the primary procedure? Is it right left heart temp assist device implant or peripheral vascular access for transcatheter procedures? So the correct answer is peripheral vascular access for transcatheter procedures, as Leslie has already presented in the example. The surgeon did not implant or insert the device, but again, provided access for the procedure. Therefore, the primary procedure is going to be the access. Next slide. So in summary, the new training manual that will be put out at the beginning of January will have all of this information for you to refer to as you are coding your VAD operations. Remember, all VAD operations are to be submitted, and the new rule applies to multi-component procedures completed with VAD implants. This may also then include procedures done while a patient is already on a VAD, so VAD procedures and VAD changeouts as well. So again, will all be highlighted in the January training manual. And that should be my last slide.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. Okay, everyone is very quiet. There's no questions so far. While we are waiting for questions, I don't know, Dr. Subramanian, did you have anything you wanted to add in addition to Chas and Leslie's presentation?
No, that was excellent presentation. Thank you everyone for allowing us to present this to you. Again, the stated goal clearly here is moving forward, trying to capture all the bad operations that are done, and hopefully one day see if there is a way for us to come up with a outcome risk model specifically for our VAD patients. So this is the first step in that direction. You're going to submit all the VAD procedures, but I'm going to say it out loud one more time. They're not going to be included in your mortality risk model calculations. They're not going to go into table 16 of your feedback analysis report. You're just going to submit them. Nothing is going to change with feedback analysis. Again, only op type 1 and 2 will be included in the feedback analysis based on existing rules. These VADs are not going to go in yet. So there should be no concern in that regard. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Subramanian. Chas, Angie has a question for the last scenario. And I can go back to that. Let's see here. Would you code right left temporary assist device implant as a secondary procedure?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I do know we want to open up the VAD tab and fill out the information. Angie, would you submit this as an FAQ so we can make sure that we get this discussed with the core group and put in the training manual for January? There are going to be scenarios we haven't thought of. And so we would really like any questions that you have obviously submitted so that we have it ready to go for you in January.
Excellent. Thank you. Great question, Angie. All right. And then while we're waiting for additional questions, before I hop over into the just a walkthrough of the executive dashboard, the community page, our monthly webinars for next year. For January, the monthly webinar is going to be held on the 21st, and then February is on the 18th, followed up by our March webinar on the 18th as well. So just go ahead and mark your calendars accordingly. All right. And again, so while we are waiting for questions, if any other questions related to our VAD presentation, great job, Chas and Leslie. You guys always do a phenomenal job. I'm going to pull up the community page. I have a lot of tabs open right now, so I apologize. So let me get this pulled up and over, and I'll share my screen. Let me get this pulled over here. And I'm just gonna go down to our dummy site here. So once you open up the IQVIA platform, you'll be brought to the community page that you see here now. So I hope you all have had, I think most of you have probably seen the community page now and have had a chance to go through and review the community page. I just wanted to walk through and just give you kind of a tour. And again, we've had a couple of questions come in, so I just wanted to clarify a few things. So again, the very first widget is basically just a summary of table 16 from your most recent harvest report. Looks exactly like it should look in your harvest report, but again, we just give you a quick visual of table 16, again from the most recent report. Our next widget is the participant results over time. One of the questions that we've gotten from a few people is the overall site performance. Where are we pulling that information from? So again, just a reminder, this is again just a view of your table 16 over the last 4 harvest periods. So this overall site performance column is being populated from table 16 from this very first sentence that you see above your table 16 in your report. So this overall site performance is being pulled from this statement here from your table 16. Again, I know this widget is kind of big and you have to do some scrolling as you're going through. You can also, again, just right click and kind of maximize your visualization. I'm sorry, hit the wrong one. So you can right click and maximize the visualization on any of the widgets. Again, right click again to restore your visualization. As we scroll down, we also have table 19, our postoperative length of stay. And again, this is from the most current report. And then again, we have the growth of the STS congenital database, cumulative operations over time. This widget does update in near real time. So as participants are submitting data to the database, if you were to submit data, next week, you'll see that these numbers will be updated in near real time. So this widget, if you check it one day and then go in 2 days later, you notice the numbers are different. It's just because people are submitting data to the data warehouse, and these numbers again will update in near real time. Also, we have, which I'm super excited about, the current harvest missing unknown summary down here at the bottom. And again, this works just as as you notice in your MVR and in the mortality eligibility summary report within the platform. These tables mimic those tables there. Important thing to notice here, there is drill down capability. I'm in a dummy site, so there's nothing I can click on here to drill down, but if you were to click on a row and if you had missing number here, that record would itemize down here so you could quickly identify those cases. One functionality that I did want to point out within the community page, you can actually move these widgets around. So if you want to see this missing harvest summary up at the top, as soon as you log in, you can click on this little wheel here, click here, and you can move the widgets around. So here's the harvest summary. You can bump this one up to the very top of the page. If you want to see the growth of the database next, you can bump that one up to whichever order you want to see it in. If they're and just hit save. And then if you go here, your widgets will rearrange into whatever order that you would like to see them in. If you want to restore it, just go back and hit reset, and it puts everything back into the order that it was originally set in. If there are some widgets that you don't want to see, you can hide certain widgets. If you don't want to see the postoperative length of stay widget, you can move it over here, click save, and then that widget will disappear from your dashboard. So again, you can customize it to however you prefer to see the widgets and the orders. So that's just a feature that I wanted to point out there. Also, we're currently in the process of also enhancing the community page. One of the things is, we're going to be adding graphs for these widgets. We're going to add graphs for table 16 results over time, as obviously it would be a lot easier to see this in graphical format as opposed to just all of these numbers jumping out at you. All of these tables are able to export into Excel. So you can right click and export this table to Excel. And then once these tables are exported into Excel, the data is there for you. And then within a couple of, literally a minute, you can just create your graph there within Excel. So until we get this data graph, these graphs added, you can just export the table to Excel and then just create your graphs within Excel within a matter of minutes. Also, we recognize that, all of these numbers and these tables are kind of hard to see. So much how we have the alternate shading here for this first widget here, we'll be adding alternate shading down here just to make the tables a little bit easier to read. But again, we hope that you guys like the executive summary dashboard. We'd love to get your feedback. So please, feel free to get their feedback, get that feedback to us. If you have ideas for things that you would like to see on the executive dashboard that you don't see now, please get that feedback to us. We would love to get that feedback. So we have some more questions coming in. So I'm going to jump over to the questions, Chas and Les, and let's see if we can get those answered. So our first question from Abby, should the scenario with the Impella be coded as op type other even before 1/1/25?
Yeah, thanks, Leanne and Abby. That is a great question. That rule change actually came about due to an FAQ. So we have already responded to at least one site with that methodology, but it just hadn't reached the training manual. So you can use that strategy. It would be the correct way to code these cases prior to January 1st. Again, we're not asking anyone to go back and redo things. We want to get it right going forward, and it will be in the January training manual, but you can code it that way now for the next 2 weeks or however long that may be. And then also really quickly back to Angie's question. We did already put in it will be in the training manual for secondary procedures. So the answer to that is yes. The primary procedure is still to access the surgeon provided, but then still list the temporary assist device as an implant and go ahead and open the VAD section to put in any other details.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Ram, I think you may be able to help us with this question, help Marina with her next question. Her surgeon wants to better understand how the adjusted risk mortality got calculated for stat 5s on table 16. Can someone help her? She searched the library, the overview. She's not finding any information. She just doesn't know how to explain the complexities of case mix.
Absolutely. Happy to explain that. So Marina, there is one congenital heart surgery database risk model. That risk model is universally applied to all the operations that were submitted for analysis. That's how we come up with the first row in table 16, which is all stat mortality categories. We go with all the observed mortalities for the center. The eligible number for that center gives us the percentage mortality observed. The percentage expected is calculated based on the risk model, and an O/E ratio and an AMR are calculated from that. So the O/E ratio is the ratio of observed to expected with 95% confidence interval. That O/E ratio multiplied by the mortality observed in the STS gives you the adjusted mortality rate, or the AMR, for the individual participant. Then for the next 4 lines, basically we run the same risk model for all stat 1 procedures, for all stat 2 procedures, for all stat 3, stat 4, and stat 5 procedures. In other words, the next 5 lines are basically risk-adjusted outcomes stratified by stat category. That's all. The risk model is exactly the same. It isn't applied differently to any of the other stat categories. So we apply it to the whole universe of operations for each participant. And then we present the data separately for everybody in stat 1, everybody in stat 2, everybody in stat 3. That's all. So only one risk model is run. So basically what you're asking is the AMR that got calculated for stat 5s. The way that was done was, after running the risk model on all of the procedures submitted from your center, we took all the stat 5 procedures alone. We took the number of observed mortalities in stat 5, number of eligible mortalities in stat 5, calculated a percentage observed mortality. The risk model gave us the percentage expected mortality. We calculated the O to E ratio, observed divided by expected, and gave it a 95% confidence interval. The observed STS mortality is 15.29% for stat 5 procedures in the current harvest analysis. So we took your center's O to E ratio, multiplied that by 15.29, that gave the adjusted mortality rate, not risk, adjusted mortality rate, AMR, for your center for stat 5 cases. Hope that's clear.
Thank you, Dr. Subramanian. Appreciate it very much. Yep, Kelly and I had asked, Banu is reaching out to IQVIA Tier 2 for an updated on your ticket. And Jen, for table 16 participant results over time, let me pull that up. All right, so for table 16 participant results over time, can I make a request to add the most recent results at the top? So the most recent results. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost the question. Okay, most recent results at the top. I love this visualization, but it'd be best to share the whole thing with the most recent results. Okay, so we have, so this is the participant results over time. So we have the most recent at the top. So I'm not understanding. I'm sorry, am I confused? So having fall 20, oh yeah, so fall 24. So yeah, so it will update. This was the fall 24 results just came out I think last week. So I need to check with IQVIA on when that fall 24 report will be reflected here. Because I thought it was
Isn't it just the summary of table 16 currently? Isn't this the fall 24?
Yeah, so this is the fall 24/7/2024. The table 16, the summary of table 16 is the most recent, but the results over time. Oh, you know why? It might be, yeah, the results over time is just showing spring 24. It's not pulling in fall 24.
Correct.
Fall 24 harvest yet. Yeah.
We wanted it that way, Leanne. We wanted it to show 5 years, 5 harvests worth of data.
Right.
So in order to maximize this space and not have to repeat
Thank you.
the current analysis, what we have done is the current analysis shows up on the top, that's table 16.
Yep.
And then the next 4 analyses go back in reverse chronologic order.
Right.
So for now, fall 2024 is up on the top in the widget number 1 that's on the top. We put that separately because those are your current results. Then in the second widget, which Leanne is showing, it goes in reverse order. So the most recent reverse order on the top, not including the current one. So if fall 2024 is on the top, you have spring 24, fall 23, spring 23, fall 22, table 16s shown here. Once spring 2025 results are out, they will go up on the top in a separate widget to say, this is your current analysis. And then fall 2024 will displace and become the top set of rows in the second widget. And the last one, which is the fall 2022, which is the 5th set of results, will fall off. So that's the cycle in which we're going to go. We figured this way you'll have 5 harvests worth of data to go back and look.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for refreshing my memory. Like I told you, my brain's on vacation already. All right. Thanks. So, and I think Jen wanted to know if someone would talk to her surgeon. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Marina. Yeah.
I responded. I sent her my
Okay.
email. They are welcome to reach out to me at any time.
Yes.
And we have it recorded now, so we can just
Yeah.
use it.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions, but again, do you know when the month and or dates for AQO 2025 will be released?
Soon.
Emily, yes, Emily,
Soon.
soon, yeah.
Yeah, so our meetings team has been putting together proposals for our leadership here at STS to review. We go over many line items, food and beverage, the space, um, all kinds of stuff that it goes into reviewing those. So I apologize that it's taken us a little longer than we would have liked, but we're just trying to make sure that we have the space that we is going to be the best for us. So we're in the final days of reviewing that now, and we hope to have it finalized by the Christmas by the end of this month. And then we will put a note in our STS National Database News. We'll announce it here on the webinars, and we'll put it on the website as soon as we're able to 100% say what our location will be. The dates that we're looking at are probably going to be around the late September, early October. So that's what I have for now. I'm sorry that I can't announce more.
Yeah. Thank you, Emily. All right. So our next question from Amy, a general question. Why is number of patients in analysis in table 1 different from the total number eligible in table 16?
I will take that question, Leanne.
Sure.
Amy, that's a great question. It is because the entry criteria for table 1 and table 16 are different. So just to refresh everybody's memory, table 16 is the only table in your feedback analysis report that is risk adjusted. All the other tables are stratified based on stat category or age. They are not risk adjusted. So that results in a subtle difference in the numbers. In other words, table 1 is a list of all of your patients that were eligible for inclusion into the risk model. That's table 1. But once they go through the risk model analysis, we have additional steps that are carried out before the risk model is run. Certain procedures don't have stat scores. They're not included in the risk model. Certain procedures, for example, a pacemaker in someone, a temporary pacemaker in someone under 2 kilos, a PDA in a very small preemie, those kinds of patients are eliminated before the risk model is further run on the remaining subset of patients. So the subset of patients included in your risk adjusted analysis in table 16 is a smaller subset of the number of patients that were there in table 1. Therefore, those numbers are going to be subtly different, and it'll also vary from harvest to harvest, depending on how many of those patients that were eligible for analysis but not included for other reasons. Again, it stems from the fact that table 16 is the only table currently where risk-adjusted outcomes are placed, and therefore that number of patient data there alone is going to be different than what you see anywhere else.
Excellent explanation, Dr. Subramanian. Thank you so much. Okay. Again, I just gone over the monthly webinars. No additional questions coming in at this moment, but again, just a friendly reminder, since the reports, did recently go out, if you have any questions at all about that report, please reach out to the help desk. Please reach out to our support at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. If you need to, again, just reach out to make the stsdb_helpdesk all where you send all of your questions related to anything, reports, analytical, anything like that. If you have clinical related questions, again, just continue to submit those via the FAQ. And then if you have questions about your invoicing or payments, please send those questions to stsdb@sts.org. But again, all report related questions should go to stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. All right. I do not have any other information at this time. Again, I hope you guys are enjoying the community page. Please continue to share your ideas, send those to me, of things you would like to see on the executive dashboard and the community page. We're really excited about it. Again, those graphs will be coming, but in the meantime, you can quickly graph that data using just exporting those data into Excel and then just creating your graphs there. But again, we hope you really do like it. And again, we'd love to have your feedback. So with that, I'm not seeing any additional questions come in. I'd like to wish you all happy holidays, and I hope you have a great rest of the year and a great new year. So everyone, enjoy your family time, take some time away, enjoy your family, and I hope you all have a great holiday season. And thank you, Chastity and Leslie, for your amazing presentation as always, and your support. And thank you, Dr. Subramanian and Dr. Meyer, for being on. We appreciate you. With that, again, we'll get these slides PDF'd, and the presentation, the recorded presentation, will be posted out on the STS website. Probably give us, probably by the 1st of next week, that information should be available, should be posted out there, if not by the end of this week. So with that, I wish you all a safe and happy holiday season, and we will see you all in the new year. Thank you so much, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week.